Hey everyone, John here, and our little buddy, the SEGA Dreamcast, was so far ahead of its time. Arcade quality games in the living room, a controller with dual screens. What could possibly go wrong? But growing up, I never got to utilize this port back here, the line port. This allows you to take your dial-up connection and put it into your Dreamcast and access the internet to play games with other people or download DLC. That's right, the Dreamcast had DLC, so when games like Sonic Adventure 2 on the box say they have online functions, that's what they're referring to. The stuff you could download to expand your game back in the 90s and early 2000s, which is just nuts. Now, as the years went on, Sega released the broadband adapter, allowing Ethernet connections to the Dreamcast. However, that was very limited to only a handful of games, and even if we did use that these days, the servers would be long gone, right? Well, there is a solution to all this, and we're not even going to touch Ethernet. We are going to essentially emulate a dial-up connection. We are doing this via DreamPi. This right here is just a regular Raspberry Pi, a Raspberry Pi 4, but on the micro SD card is all the info needed to make it a DreamPi. And from there, you just need a couple more things. This is a line voltage inducer with two ends, so the USB goes into the DreamPi, other way around. This end goes into the Sega Dreamcast, and this end goes into the USB to modem adapter, basically allowing dial-up connections to connect via USB. Now, I only know of 3 of these that exist, and at first I thought I ordered one of them, but it was just the disc and the manual, not the actual thing, so I've ended up with this one right here, and it does the job. And then the final thing we've got to do is put an Ethernet cable in the Raspberry Pi. That way it's getting modern internet, but converting it into dial-up and going straight into the Sega Dreamcast. So it may sound a bit complicated, but everything you need is on their website, even if I went the more DIY route. But yeah, this basically allows our Dreamcast to connect to the internet, and from there, we just change a couple of things in the internet settings, and we're connected. The Dreamcast Live website has a downloadable browser called XDP, and from here, we can use PlanetWeb to access this information in the connection settings. So the phone number is 111-1111, the password is Dreamcast, and the primary DNS is just 0.0.0.0, and the same for the secondary, 0.0.0.0. And now, our Dreamcast is fully online for so many games. That means online multiplayer, downloading DLC, and so much more. Although, if you wanted to go the easier route, you could just get this. This is a Dream Shell. It just goes in the back of your Dreamcast in the serial port, and then you can put an SD card in there and put any DLC files you want onto your VMU. That's the cheaper and easier way. But it's not the cooler way, and plus with this method, we can play Choo Choo Rocket online. Come on, you know you wanna. Join me! So, now your Dreamcast has been connected to the internet. In games like Sonic Adventure, there's now a new option in the menu, down here, saying Internet. This is usually grayed out, but we've got access to it now. Nothing can stop us. And here we are, connecting. It's not as screechy as I was hoping. And so this takes us to the Sonic Adventure homepage. Now back in the day, a lot of this DLC was available as timed events, so there's stuff like the New Year event and the Christmas event, and once the period was over, that was it, you couldn't download it again. But thankfully the people behind this recreation have taken that feature away. Everything is archived here for you to download and use, and it's so flippin' cool. And while you may be aware of the DLC, there's actually even more cool stuff in here, like Chao functionality. Sonic Adventure DX and Adventure 2 Battle changed the Chao Garden a lot to accommodate for the lack of VMU and internet. Like for one, the black market. It is more limited here than the GameCube version, but the way it essentially works is you take your emblems from the core game and you trade them in for Chao. So as you can see right here, my save file has all the emblems, and so I get a Knight's Chao. That is really, really cool. You can also take your Chao to the daycare, which in this version is basically putting them online for others to see. Very, very ahead of its time. But yes, this video is about DLC, so let's explore some of that. Let's begin with the Launch Party DLC. This was available when the Dreamcast came out, and if you downloaded it, Station Square would be overrun with balloons and banners that say Dreamcast, and when you bump into them, you get a bunch of different messages celebrating the Dreamcast and its long, long, long future of around 3 years, or 2 years in some countries. And what's funny is this stuff isn't just for gameplay, like this stuff is still there during cutscenes. The police are here to put a stop to all those crazy Dreamcast launch parties. They're going wild over there. Because this is the European version of the DLC, all the banners are blue. But what about the red banners for America and Japan? Now, while the entire premise of this video is showing the stuff running on real hardware using a real internet connection, there is a hurdle. Some of this is region locked. And when I say region locked, I don't mean it's locked to specific versions of Sonic Adventure, because I found a Japanese disc, and that disc has still not accessed the Japanese content. It is locked to the system. It's region locked on a system level. So because this is a PAL Dreamcast, it doesn't matter if it can access the game or not. I can bypass the game's region security. That doesn't matter. It still knows that this is a European Dreamcast. And so there's actually no way to play the American and Japanese DLC on this thing. So I am going to cheat a little bit here and use not legit hardware. But we'll get back to legit stuff, don't you worry. So yeah, we're using not-so-real hardware to show these ones, but look, the banner's red now! And there's slightly different messages, like a different launch date for both the American and Japanese ones. And what's funny is if you use the Japanese DLC on an American console, you will still get the American date and American text. So the Japanese DLC is also the American DLC, but depending on what region your console is set up in, it will change the text. I think that's just kind of funny. We will return to real hardware really soon, but let's just go through the region-exclusive stuff first. This is the Quo Card Hunt DLC. Hidden around Station Square in the Mystic Ruins are 6 cards of the Senior Managing Director of SEGA's Dreamcast division, Hidekazu Yuakawa. Players were given 10 minutes to find these cards as quickly as possible, and the top 50 players were rewarded with 500 yen on a prepaid card featuring his face. Yeah, 500 yen. It's not very much. Finding this one right here took me quite a while. He blends right in with the environment. Like there's other posters here, he's like behind glass. But this is very, very cool, and clearly inspired the mission mode found in Sonic Adventure DX with some very similar missions there, but nothing quite the same as this. And in a similar vein was the Famitsu DLC. This one hid 5 real-life hedgehogs around Station Square and gave you 10 minutes to find them. And like, look, it's an actual hedgehog. These can likewise be very tricky to find. You mean to tell me you didn't climb up to the tallest pillar in the train station and then look up at the ceiling? You fool! That was the most obvious place to look. And while Japan also had some holiday exclusive DLC, we'll get to that stuff later. How about the American exclusive DLC? Well, in America, Sega made a deal with AT&T for 3 exclusive DLC courses. The first one is a time attack on Speed Highway, with just a bunch of AT&T logos and billboards just thrown in everywhere. But what's really interesting is this one also has brand new routes baked in with platforms that allow you to access areas you couldn't usually get to, or at least get to with ease. It makes speedrunning this course just a bit more interesting than usual. And quite oddly, it ends at the first segment, where there's usually a loading screen that takes you to more of the level. You just kind of go back to Station Square. The end. Oh, I don't like the second one. With this one, you're digging around as Knuckles in the Mystic Ruins trying to find 4 different secrets. They are alluded to by these AT&T boards that give you hints, or sometimes they're not hints, they just say there's no treasure around here, and you've got to try and dig in spots that they are suggesting you dig in. There's no radar or anything, you just kind of have to take their advice and dig in certain spots. But it's still very picky about where exactly you have to dig. Like this one says do a 3-hit combo in front of the shack and dig where you land, but of course the shack is in 3D space, so exactly where you're going to land may not be exactly where it is. And this one basically tells you to dig in the middle of these signs, but finding the exact center is quite rough. And it's also right next to the 3-hit combo one, so for a while I thought they were the same one. But no, they're not. At least once you know where everything is, this one doesn't last too long. And lastly is an altered version of Sand Hill as Tails. This time the usual gates don't really matter, you've just got to go through 10 AT&T posts. You're meant to memorize the route and do this quickly, but I didn't want to do that, so instead I went really slowly and just sort of tried to hop my way down to where I could see the posts because they appear so quickly and they can take a while to learn, and I've not got time to learn things. Back to real hardware, and in Europe, we got the Reebok DLC. Reebok were advertising brand new shoes, there's billboards for those all over Emerald Coast, and the general gist is, Dr. Robotnik has stolen 5 pairs of Reebok! You've got to go and collect them all. And the music changes to the Versus theme when you're fighting another character, like for the whole level. I've never heard this theme for that long. Like the Speed Highway one, this is just the first part of the level, and if you get to the end without all the shoes, you just can't clear it, so you've got to go back and find more. But of course, you can't always go back because it's a linear level, so you have to restart and find more. But yeah, here's where all the Reebok are. There you go, we saved the brand. To celebrate the release of Samba de Amigo, a brand new circuit racetrack released in Twinkle Park, themed around Samba de Amigo? Actually, it's not themed around it at all. Supersonic Racing is playing in the background. An instrumental version. Is that meant to be Amigo? Like, this is just another racetrack. There's nothing to do with Samba de Amigo in here. I don't know what to tell you about this one. Twinkle Park also got a Halloween update, adding a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns around the course, and for the most part, they don't get in the way at all, apart from when you're bowling, in which case, they do get in the way. There's also a bunch of graffiti saying trick or treat, and it's just really cool this game could stay present with the holidays, and that's something that would continue with New Year and Christmas. So let's look at those. This is the Christmas DLC. Around Station Square are 4 different trees, and touching them plays a Christmas song. In fact, this is Dreams Dreams a cappella from Christmas Nights. Take a listen.
The train headed for the Mystic Ruins.
We also had a Millennium update for the year 2000, a Y2K event. This adds a big ring in Station Square, and when touching it, it plays Palm Tree Panic from Sonic CD. There's also a bunch of well wishes. Please support Sonic in 2K. Please! Sonic runs through 2K, Knuckles digs through 2K, Tails smiles through 2K. What's also really cool about this one is these rings appear in every action stage too, in every load screen. So there's multiple rings hiding in every level for you to find, and they all replace the music with Palm Tree Panic. Now, Japan had 2 other holiday events. There was the first Christmas one in 1998, before the system had even launched in Europe and America. There's now 7 trees around Station Square, and touching them plays music, but not Christmas nights, just more traditional Christmas songs like Silent Night, or Joy to the World, or Jingle Bells. And then finally, there's Japan's New Year event, and this is probably the most subtle of all of them. There's just some decorations scattered around giving you some messages. Nothing all that different with this one, but it's still very cool to see Japanese culture represented in this way. And that is mostly all of Sonic Adventure's DLC. And I say mostly because there's also something really exciting, and that is menu voice packs. These were also in the GameCube version, but on the Dreamcast, you'll download them, so Eggman can just declare what all the menus are.
Select a memory card. Select a file.
He has a scary voice. This website is just so damn cool. It extends the Chao Garden, it gives you DLC, there's leaderboards to compete to make Sonic Adventure more of a global game. I wish I played this when I was a kid. I wish I had access to this stuff, but finally trying it now is still really special. And something else that's quite special is the team also released something entirely new. This takes you back to the past in the Echidna area, and usually you can never come back here, so it's just kind of cool to free roam whenever you want to. But it gives you a challenge of finding 5 Chaos scattered around the area. You've just got to zoom around, find these very small Chao which are quite tricky to find, and then return them to the Master Emerald to please Chaos. It's pretty simple, but playing brand new content on original hardware that functions in this day and age is bonkers, and I hope there's a bunch more of this in the future. Now, how about Sonic Adventure 2? Well, this game didn't go too crazy on the DLC, but there's still some cool stuff to talk about. Much like Adventure 1, some of the Chao Garden lives in the web browser, and just like in that game, you trade your emblems to get them. But when it comes to the DLC, there's only really 5 things to talk about. First is the Christmas pack. Once you download this, it appears in the themes menu, which is a strange place for it to be given it doesn't actually change the theme of the menu, but once equipped, when you go to 2-player, all players have Christmas costumes. So here is Sonic and Shadow.
Let me show you my real power.
Here are Tails and Eggman.
Do you think you can beat me?
And here are Knuckles and Rouge.
With the Master Emerald.
I won't lose to the likes of you.
Very cool stuff. And again, this stuff never reappeared on the GameCube, on Xbox, on PS3, on PC. This remains exclusive to Dreamcast. But there's also the Halloween DLC. So again, here are Sonic and Shadow. Tails and Eggman.
Do you think you can beat me?
And Knuckles and Rouge.
One with the Master Emerald.
I won't lose to the likes of you.
Knuckles just gonna
Keep your comments to yourself, okay? And finally, we had 3 kart expansion DLCs. While the tracks themselves may look very similar, the outline kind of represents what they're based off. So here's the Egg Robo track. And what's very cool about this is you play as Egg Robo. Yeah, the racer from Sonic R. He's back in a racing game. I actually love playing as him, this is really cool. Then there was the Fantasy Zone DLC, which is very, very cool. And the track looks like this, and you get the Oppa Oppa Kart, which is manned by Chao. Although I only know this because I crashed, and as you turn around you can see them. And last but not least is the coolest of them all, High Speed Trial. And this gives you Sonic in a different car. The prototype kart. Okay, this one isn't that cool. But I mislead you, there's more stuff. Like the first Sonic Adventure, there's also Voice Packs. Yeah, this was also in the GameCube version. But there, you had to grind and unlock them, whereas here you can just download them. And now, the secretary from the president's car can announce stuff to us via the menu. This is the dream.
Which story do you wish to try? Is this the stage you would like to go to?
I feel like we're just scratching the surface with this. I mean, simply covering Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 took a fair amount of time. And this is all just DLC stuff. There's no actual online multiplayer. So playing games like Choo Choo Rocket and Daytona USA and so many others online is something we have to do more of in the future. So wait for that video whenever we get around to it. But this has been such a joy. Adventure 1 and Adventure 2 were big parts of my childhood. In fact, this was my first console game after being exposed to the Game Boy. And it means so much to me to see more of it. Stuff that I've never experienced before. Stuff that's never found its way into future ports. It's just kind of been left on the Dreamcast. And what's pretty special is, up until recently, some of it was still undiscovered. Because of course, the way you get this content is by someone having it on their VMU. And it takes up like a quarter to half of the entire unit. So most people would have deleted it or lost their VMUs over the years. So finding somebody with this region-specific content is a very rare occurrence, but It's so cool that it can still happen. So thank you to everyone behind this, everyone that's preserved their data, the Dreamcast Live and DreamPie team, DreamPipe, just everyone involved in making this possible, because it is so cool. Anyway, thank you for watching until the end, and because you watched all the way through, it is hot take time! And my hot take today is this game right here, Sonic Shuffle. Isn't that bad? You've probably heard horrible things about this game. You've probably heard it's unfair, it's cheap, it's boring. I think none of those things are true. It's done by Hudson, who are the legacy talent behind Mario Party. So it's a Mario Party clone, but they got the Mario Party talent to make it, which is just kind of wild for for Mario's competitor being Sonic to have the same team behind his rip-off game. That's kind of nuts. But I think one thing that's often overlooked is many people play this game on an emulator. But this makes great use of the VMU. Every player gets their own little display on the card telling them information that's hidden from the rest of the players. So stuff that may seem random if you're playing on an emulator without using that VMU content is actually quite methodical when playing on actual hardware or when you're emulating the VMU screen. So I think this generally gets a bad rap because people misunderstand how you're meant to play it, I think. But I've always had a good time with it. I will say playing on the single player can get tedious because the AI are a bunch of cheaters. They are. But when you're playing with 4 other people, this can be maybe not just as good as Mario Party, but it can be up there. It can definitely be better than the weaker Mario Party entries. So when people say this is like the worst Sonic game, I shake my head in disapproval. You think this is worse than Sonic Labyrinth? No. This is a good game. It's not even among the bad ones. It's just legitimately a good game. Anyway, thank you for watching until the end, and I will catch you next time. Bye, everyone.